Okay, so the argument of Francis Collins, he argues the axiological argument and other arguments that God exists, and then he says on page 81, if God exists, then he is supernatural. If God is supernatural, then he is not limited by natural laws. If he is not limited by natural laws, there is no reason he should be limited by time. And if he is not limited by time, then he is in our past, present, and our future. Consequence of those conclusions would include he could exist before the Big Bang, and he could exist after the universe fades away if it ever does. Next, he could know the precise outcome of the formation of the universe even before it started. Third, he could have foreknowledge of a planet near the outer rim of an average spiral galaxy that would have just the right characteristics to allow life. Penultimately, he could have foreknowledge that that planet would lead to the development of sentient creatures through the mechanism of evolution by natural selection. And finally, he could even know in advance the thoughts and actions of those creatures, even though they themselves have free will. Okay, so the uh, argument here includes the idea that God uh, could have foreknowledge and set things up so that uh, sentient life will evolve, that humans will evolve. So um, it seems that if God could have done that, and if God did perhaps do that, that the teachings of evolutionary science and also other areas of science, for example cosmology, that those are indeed compatible, contra Dawkins, with um, the findings of science, the um, conclusions of science and the conclusions of religion could very well be compatible. Um, and indeed, as Collins sees things, they are. So, on the one hand, you have Dawkins arguing against the existence of God and the compatibility of religious faith and scientific faith, or scientific knowledge and religious knowledge, using faulty assumptions, faulty premises, and faulty logic. So it's both invalid and unsound. That's on the one hand. On the other hand, you have Francis Collins arguing for the existence of God and for the compatibility of belief in God with trust in science. And the two, or the arguments here on the part of Collins, are using uh, sound reason and true premises, and we've looked at both of those arguments in depth in previous videos. Um, so I think that's important to notice. Um, Now, neither Dawkins nor Collins are professional philosophers or professional logicians, um, or religious scholars, for that matter. Um, but when a person in the academic community, professors at colleges or scientists working in the field, um, they have the opportunity uh, to consult with colleagues in other disciplines. So if I am a physicist and I want to write a book about biology, that's okay, um, but you should take with what I say with a grain of salt, unless I uh, have a biologist read through the book before it is published. And if the biologist says that I am misconstruing the facts in any way, that those can be corrected. So I think that there's plenty of people around um, that could have uh, looked at Dawkins' book and made any suggestions of ways that he could have improved it. Um, at least not having him use blatant logical fallacies, blatantly misconstrue religion, the Bible, the nature of God, etc., etc. So, um, while we don't hold Dawkins or Collins to as high a standard as, say, Alvin Plantinga when constructing a deductive argument, um, I think that the great travesty of the poorness in the God delusion is really without excuse. Uh, he's not Alvin Plantinga, but he could have consulted uh, somebody at Cambridge University, um, where he teaches, as I recall, um, in the math department or in the religious studies department, um, to have reviewed his book uh, prior to publishing it to make sure that it didn't have just, I don't know. Yeah, so a very bad argument, which is ultimately inconclusive because it's so bad, because it's unsound and invalid. And on the part of Dawkins, on the part of Collins, a good argument. It has true premises. The conclusions follow formally, validly from the premises. There's no non sequiturs. So I think we should go with Collins on this one, not with Dawkins. Um, so and by the way, I was recently watching a debate of sorts between Richard Dawkins and William Lane Craig, um, and still Dawkins is in this mindset. No matter how many times people try to explain this to him, it's not God of the gaps. Okay? If there is a hole, a God-shaped hole in our knowledge, and the only thing that will fit in that hole is God, we have to put God there. Uh, it's not uh, begging the question or hiding in our ignorance or knocking on wood, keeping our fingers crossed that science won't catch up to us someday. No, there is no natural explanation in principle possible for all of nature coming into being a finite time ago. There is no natural explanation in principle possible for nature itself beginning to be. Alright, so a supernatural explanation, i.e. God, and I think Collins there is on the right track. In the language of God, he does speak about the cosmological and teleological arguments in addition to the axiological argument. Uh, so I would recommend this to you. I don't think he gives a fair hearing to ID and perhaps to young Earth creationism as well. But other than that, it's a pretty good book. Got some good natural theology, apologetics, Christian apologetics in there. Um, Read it with discernment as you read everything. And if you wish, you can read The God Delusion as well if you haven't already. But I'm telling you, it is the worst book that has ever been published. um, all right. I know I'm overly critical of Dawkins in a lot of my videos, um, but the hope of all Christians, I think, is not to wish him any ill personally, but rather we hope and pray that he will come to Christ. Um, so I don't mean to sound like I am condemning him personally, but I think in the New Testament, in the Gospels, we have Jesus confronting the Pharisees with very harsh words, and in some ways, Richard Dawkins is analogous to the Pharisees. He's not a rabbinical Jew, of course, but he's got kind of a it seems a closed-minded mindset. So perhaps strong. It seems he's beyond the point of being willing to listen to reason. Um, as I said, he could have consulted with people before he published the God Delusion, um, but perhaps if he gets enough harsh, strong rhetoric, he will be kind of persuaded to open his eyes and look at the evidence for God and against atheism, or whatever it is that he believes, because it seems that it's hard to pin down what he believes. Is he an atheist? Is he an agnostic? Is he a deist? Even. Anyway, um, yeah. So um, that's why I kind of rag on him so much. Of course, he's probably not going to take 5 seconds to watch any of my videos, and has never heard of me. But on the off chance that he does, um, that's why I'm so hard on him. Okay. Um, it's without excuse. It's without excuse. Um, at any rate, thank you all for watching. This is the concluding video of this series. I'm really having some fun with this grand design book, not by Dawkins, but by Stephen Hawking. More to come on that in the near future, I think. Alright, Shalom. Happy New Year. Merry Christmas.